Normal Redditors that dated a celebrity. What was it like? My wife briefly dated Louis C.K. back in 2012. She says it seems kind of awful to be famous. Any time they went out to eat or were in public, they were just constantly interrupted or stared at. He came to her b-day party at some little bowling alley in Brooklyn though and was pretty cool. The story that always sticks with me is that one day he went out and bought a $150 watch because he felt sad. Wow, that's surreal. How did she react to all the scandal he was involved in semi-recently? I see him regularly at my local dog park. I keep conversation minimal. After every scandal I feel like I want to talk to him about it, but I just let him be and we just awkwardly stand in silence looking at our dogs. He doesn't seem super happy. Well, he's a comedian. Not a lot of them are super happy. Salma Hayek is my dad's childhood friend. They grew up together in Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz. They never dated, but they have remained acquaintances if not friends. I never believed him they were friends until one day we ran into her in the airport and she invited us for dinner. She is a really nice person and a lot of fun to hang out with. Holy crap. I'd give anything to have dinner with Shish. Not a romantic date in the least. But I had dinner once at a Japanese restaurant in a group setting with Leonardo Dicaprio while he was in Louisiana filming Django Unchained. He wanted to know what college was like and was asking us all about our lives. He also let me try his udon. It was my first ever Instagram post. He really is such a nice guy in the limelight, and in real life it felt like we were hanging out with our friend. Yay. First one that didn't happen to someone's aunt. My uncle hooked me up to see Foreigner in 1981. Including 2 backstage passes. I took a girl I really liked, but she ended up meeting Mick Jones and disappearing with him into a dressing room. I didn't see her again that night. So I guess you could say I got FK'd by Mick Jones. Edit, her side of the story was that she went with him into another room where people were drinking and smoking. And he ignored her after that. She said she stayed there 20 minutes. Then left and couldn't find me. And I had ditched her. So just to be clear, I'm not accusing Mick of doing anything inappropriate. That's her story and her mother believed it enough to call my mother to complain about it. So yeah, that's what musta happened. I feel that pain. Had a similar experience with a girl, but I would have felt better if it was someone famous. Lol. Hooked up with a chick who was in a soap opera a few times. Didn't know it at the time but recognized her when I was at my grandmother's and she had her show playing. Hey grandma, that's the girl I FK'd the other day. That's nice honey. Not me. But my aunt dated Matthew McConaughey before he was famous. He ended up getting invited to her wedding to my normal uncle. And proceeded to pass out drunk in the back of my family's car. He refused to leave. And now my dad refuses to watch his movies. He said in an interview that he kind of cleaned up his act in an effort to make it. I guess it worked. My aunt went on a date with Jimmy Buffett. She said he picked her up. Stopped at a gas station. Bought a jar of pickles and then drove to the beach. They ate pickles and he took her home. Little did she know he went on many dates like this, slowly eating each of the components of a cheeseburger on each subsequent date. All-you-can-eat burger ingredients. A burger buffet, if you will. A few years ago I was getting on a flight back to San Diego after my cousin's wedding. I was very hungover and judging people as I walked to my gate. I see this long-haired man stride by me in a purple button-down and think, who's this cupcake? Not asexuality comment, just a shirt color comment. As he walks by I realize, holy s, that's Fabio. A bit later, after getting a snack, my brazen and probably still drunk self saw him sitting at his gate and just sat down next to him. I look away, then right at him and say, you're Fabio, and he says so coolly, yes I am, and shakes my hand. We proceeded to talk for 30 minutes until he had to leave. He was so intelligent. Discussed cancer therapies in depth. And I recall thinking, just nod and smile, Fabio is way smarter than you, just nod and smile. Before leaving he asked for my number and texted me the next day for a date. Nothing ever came of it, but I still have his number in my phone. My dad followed up for weeks to make sure I wasn't dating the man on every romance novel cover. Greater than I was very hungover and judging people as I walked to my gate. Oh man, I feel this in my soul. My friend's sister-in-law was out jogging when some other random dude came up and jogged with her and talked with her about random stuff like the movie being filmed nearby at the time for a bit. After a bit of that, he said, "Oh, by the way, I hope you like the movie." They were filming The Force Awakens and she only realized later that it was Harrison Ford. My aunt was at a small airport when someone told her to watch the little plane landing to see who got out of it. Out pops Ford. He walks up to the terminal and my aunt is just gobsmacked and blurts out, "Oh my God, it's Harrison Ford." He comes to a dead stop and excitedly looks around. "Where?" Proceeds to melt her on the spot with that patented smile and walks off. Good bloke. I had an English teacher that went on a date with Mark Hamill just after filming Star Wars in the 70s. She said he was a nice guy and was very humble. He said he was a small-time actor and said he had just finished a new movie that he thought might be successful. They only went out once and she never heard from him again. Saw him in Star Wars a few months later and had her mind blown. I've heard nothing but great things about the guy. Thing is, your story really emphasizes how humble he is. An actor who just finished a movie would probably be more likely to talk about it and himself non-stop. Instead he thought it might be successful? Didn't ramble on and on about the story and how he is the star. Sheesh. A neighbor of mine was an extra in a local commercial 20 years ago and he pulls an Al Bundy every chance he can get to talk about it. So then I had to tell the director that the camera angles were all wrong. Don't get me started on the girl who played the daughter. She couldn't get the lines right. The commercial played during The Tonight Show for 3 weeks straight. It was an auto parts commercial, Frank. Get over it. The store has been closed for 7 years. My friend's aunt went on a blind date with Gerard Butler. Circa 300, the movie. Not the year. There was a big miscommunication. Because he was looking for a hookup and she's a kindly French-Canadian woman in her 50s. But they both had a laugh about it and enjoyed supper with each other. She said he was very kind. And very muscular. I matched with Chloe Moritz on Bumble once but then I said I liked her in Dark Shadows and she ghosted pensive face edit, I am a girl and her account was verified lol. She messaged you and you blew it. I'd imagine, hey I loved you in, is the last thing many celebrities want to hear. Guy the first know who is a deeply unpleasant creep got sat next to Juno Temple at an award show several years ago and opened up with how he'd watched Killer Joe the night before and really liked her in it. She plays a special needs child who gets raped in it. Also she's naked for a lot of the movie. Yikes. Probably too late for this but. About 15 years ago. When the show, The Simple Life, with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie was popular I made out with Paris Hilton at a nightclub in Baltimore. Essentially. They were filming them doing all sorts of random jobs around the country and staying with local families all for the culture clash laughs. One of those families ended up being my friend and her family. Being a close friend, and a well-known admirer of Paris at the time. I was invited over and got to hang with her and Nicole Richie a good amount while they were in town. Both of them were super sweet. And a lot smarter than they played for the camera. Paris was a great kisser and this story is always a hit with my friends. A few months later, her phone was hacked and nudes were leaked. My number was in her phone book and I got spammed with prank calls from 4chan. Or something. I imagine it was a lot worse for anyone who was actually famous. Anyhow, basically lost total contact after that. But still a fun story. John Krasinski liked my Venmo donation to his charity so it's basically like we're dating. Damn it's getting serious. Are you gonna move in together? What about Pam and Pee-Pee? A friend of mine banged Matthew McConaughey. She's a costumer in Hollywood and was hanging out in the bar at Chateau Marmont when Matt comes up to her and says, how about you and me walked 30 feet and get naked? Her initial response was, lol no, but by the end of the night her friends convinced her she had to do it. This was peak 2000s Matt when he was ripped and constantly shirtless. So she went up to his room at the hotel and they banged. Apparently it was sweaty. Mostly from behind. And he preferred to watch them, mostly him, in the mirror. Same girl also dated McGee from NCIS. But apparently he was a total sweetheart. My mom lived in Key West in the early mid-80s. She dated Sting for a while. He had a really nice yacht and they went on a sailing trip during which he realized my mom is psycho, she is. He ended it right after. Sometimes to F with my dad I'll start singing Roxanne or Message in a Bottle. I always imagined Sting had a nice yacht. Sting had the nice yacht. Mom had the nice yacht. My mom dated Keanu Reeves back in high school. She broke up with him because he was too focused on his band with his friends at the time. If only. Well, Wild Stalins is supposed to change the world as we know it. I have a friend whose great-great-grandma was in a relationship with Joseph Stalin. Edit, she ran off to America with another man. If her family is still around, the breakup couldn't have been too bad. Not me. But my cousin dumped Elvis Stoico, figure skater, before he became a thing to date the guy who became her husband. She always found it weird to see him in the Olympics. Charlize Theron flirted with me when I was an extra in her first movie. She was a nobody and had a really small role. Then her makeup or assistant told me I was lucky for that. I was shy and backed away because it was odd having a girl hit so hard on me. So yeah, F. My cousin was hit on by Shaq at a festival. When she pointed out that he was married, he allegedly said, "I'm Muslim. I'm allowed to have many wives." Quote, using the Shaqnosis, "You're legally allowed to have as many wives as you have championship rings." My wife's Aunt F ked David Hasselhoff 30-odd years ago. She worked in the television industry. She is now a lesbian lol. Damn, I'm so late and I know this will get buried, but when my mom's aunt died they were going through her stuff and found a picture of her sitting on JFK's lap. No one knew anything about it. JFK almost definitely slept with your mom's aunt. He boned nearly every White House intern he had. So either way, she could put on her resume, sat on the presidential staff. A family friend's mom went clubbing with Lady Gaga. Afterwards, Gaga asked if she knew who she was. Friend's mom had no idea. This is my favorite one so far. It's endearing to think of someone hanging out with Lady Gaga and having zero clue who she is. How did she end up clubbing with Lady Gaga? Was this a long time ago? Were they not being mobbed by people? Just trying to imagine the circumstances that led to this. And can't. Reminds me of my best friend's dad. He was volunteering at a local festival concert many years ago, and in search of a bathroom he wandered into the backstage area. At that time, Velvet Revolver was a thing. And they were the show's headliners. So my friend's dad ends up back there and the band is slowly getting ready for when it's time for their set. Friend's dad asks Slash where the bathroom is and Slash points it out. Friend's dad takes a pee, then comes back and smokes a cigarette while making small talk with Slash. Then heads back. Had no idea who he was hanging out with. Celebrities probably enjoy having a conversation with someone who has no idea who they are and treats them like a normal person. My old English teacher is good friends with Serj Tankian, lead singer of System of a Down, and she always talked about having coffee with him, and I'm still jealous to this day. Did she have chop suey with him too? Not me. But my uncle dated the singer Pink in high school for a little while. They went to Central Bucks in Pennsylvania. Pretty neat fun fact, but it always feels a little awkward when someone brings it up at gatherings because he is happily married now. This is also why I don't have any stories to share lol. Apparently she was super chill and down to earth. My uncle was the type of kid to create napalm in his backyard and set the neighbor's pool on fire, etc. So I've always imagined she probably acted similar at the time. But I could be way wrong. My mom had a dinner date with George Clooney in the 90s. She didn't really say much apart from the fact that he's an interesting and charismatic guy, but she honestly didn't think he was going to blow up. This thread has taught me that as an aunt I really need to up my dating game so my nibblings will have better stories. What are they nibbling? The Yatch. Meta.